Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, he dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heave is good. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining.
Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. Ja Morant, insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies Win edition. My name is Keith Parish. The Grizzlies win their season opener in very exciting fashion. That game sort of had it all. The Grizzlies made a barrage of three-pointers, mainly in the first half. Then, unfortunately, they blew a 19-point lead as the Knicks kept taking the ball to the bucket over and over and over, and the Grizzlies could not stop them. But in the end, behind a superstar performance from Ja Morant, behind huge games from Santi Aldama and Konchar, the Grizzlies pull it out in overtime and walk away with a 3-point win. I assume all of you who went to the game are groggy, sleepy, and maybe still breathless from screaming. It had all the highlights. It had, Ja Morant doing his normal behind-the-back fast break things. It had him in overtime doing a chase down block on Jalen Brunson and leading to an alley-oop finish from Brandon Clark. Like that top 10 Sports Center play, that happened in overtime in a close game. Unbelievable stuff. The Grizzlies start off their season on the right foot with the win over the New York Knicks. Now, there's a lot of good stuff here, and let's start the show with that. First and foremost, you got to say, as a team, making 17 three-pointers. Sure, there was a stretch from, the point they went up by 19 in the third quarter until Tyus Jones saved them with the game winner in overtime, where they went 4 for 22, where the three-point shooting abandoned them. But overall, one of the concerns I had for this year is, can we make three-pointers? Well, in game one, we could make three-pointers. Part of that was we took a ton of three-pointers. The Grizzlies tied their franchise record with 50 three-point attempts. They made 11 in the first half, which matches their average per game average from last year. Last year they averaged 11 and a half, so they make 11 in the first half to get up to that lead. The big hero here, well, there's a lot of heroes. One, Ja Morant. His three-point shot looked incredible. Hitting pull-up three-pointers off the dribble. Having defenders go under the screen when he has a two-man game with Steven Adams. And Ja Morant just pulls up from the top of the key, nails it. Ja Morant's three-point stroke looked awesome. Santi Aldama stepping in for Jaren Jackson Jr. with an unbelievably good game. He notches a double-double. His third career double-double, has 18 points, 11 rebounds, 3 made three-pointers. Also, an assist, a steal, and a block. His defense was very solid. It was very, very good. He only got credited for one block, but he forced R.J. Barrett into a lot of those misses. R.J. Barrett would drive to the basket, and Santi was there, forcing him to try more difficult attempts. The 3 made three-pointers, the way he spaced the court. Also, his 2-point baskets. He did a Euro step right through Emmanuel quickly. Just used his size to score over him. What an awesome game from Santi Aldama. I saw that StatMuse account was like, these are Jaren Jackson Jr. numbers. 18 points, 11 rebounds, 3 made threes. Those are Jaren Jackson Jr. numbers. Jaren doesn't give you 11 rebounds. Jaren Jackson Jr. has 14 career double-doubles. Santi already has 3. Ahead of Santi in the double-double race, Konchar. He posted a double-double. 12 points, 11 rebounds. This was the 8th game in Konchar's career that he started. In those 8 starts, he averages 9.9 rebounds. I mean, in the last 2 games, John Konchar has started, which is a silly stat to say because one of them was the last game of last year where he played 39 minutes. But in the last 2 regular season games, John Konchar has averaged 12 rebounds per game, 14.5 points per game, 6 assists per game, and 2 steals per game. When he plays, he delivers. Something I've been saying for years. His impact is always positive, or usually positive. When he gets the chance to start, man, he comes through most of the time. And the big question mark for me was, could he increase that 3-point volume? After one game, the answer is yes. John Konchar's career high in 3-point attempts before last night was 5. He took 9. John Konchar took 9 3-pointers, made a career high 4 of them. A lot of them he was wide open, where the Knicks just weren't guarding him. Some of them were designed plays to get John Konchar a 3. They were in one in the first quarter to get him a corner 3, where Brandon Clark screened the defender to get him an open corner look. One of them was when the Knicks took their first lead in the second half. The Grizzlies called timeout. The out-of-timeout play was to get John Konchar an above-the-break 3, and he drilled it. Huge game from John Konchar, stepping up in the absence of Dylan Brooks. Santi made 3s. Konchar made 3s. Ja Morant made 3s. Tyus Jones made the clutch 3. Jake LaRavia made his first career 3-point attempt. Bane had an off-night shooting, but guess what? He made 3, and he got him up. I've said that many times. One of our goals for this season is for Desmond Bane to shoot more. Desmond Bane attempted 13 3-pointers, attempted 22 field goal attempts. That's one off his career high for most field goal attempts in a game. The 13 3-pointers is the second most 3-pointers he's ever attempted in a game. The most he's ever attempted is 15. So Desmond Bane was getting the shots up like we want him to, even if it was an off night. And then everybody else delivered with the 3-pointers. And for one night, the Grizzlies made a ton of 3s and it delivered them the win. Now, one of the things that contributed to the Grizzlies getting so many 3-pointers, it seemed to be a conscious decision of the Knicks in the first half. They were helping off the shooters a lot. And I think that is going to be the game plan. Teams are, if they're going to pick their poison, they're going to allow the Grizzlies to shoot 3-pointers as opposed to let the Grizzlies beat them in the paint. The Grizzlies did not win this game in the paint. Yes, they got a lot of offensive rebounds, 20 offensive rebounds, which is excellent. I was a little worried about that not being able to carry over. That also carried over just fine in this game. However, they allowed the Knicks to get 19 offensive rebounds, which is not great. They allowed the Knicks to score 68 points in the paint, which is a huge problem. But in the first half, it seemed like the Knicks were comfortable with allowing the Grizzlies to shoot corner 3s, even if that was the wrong decision. Like, you're never supposed to allow corner 3s by helping off the strong side, and it seems like the Knicks were doing that. The Grizzlies got 16 corner 3-point attempts in this game. And of course, as you know, the corner 3-pointers, those are the good ones. Those are the ones you hit the highest percentage usually. So the Grizzlies got a lot of great 3s. Are we taking victory laps that problem is solved? No. One game. It ended up being a close game too, but it was great to see, brilliant to see. Now, the other concerns, all right, so we're not going to take victory laps that we made 3-pointers. We're also maybe not going to take victory laps or doom and gloom victory laps that these problems remain. But through game 1, the lack of rim protection was a huge problem. As, like I said, the Knicks scored 68 points at the rim or in the paint. Cam Reddish especially just said, no one's going to block my shot and no one's going to stop me on the perimeter, so I'm going to keep driving to the bucket over and over and over. I mean, he made some really, really difficult finishes at the rim. Some spectacular offhand stuff. But it's an issue with the Grizzlies defending in the interior. Also, the Grizzlies did not force their normal number of turnovers. They forced 12 turnovers, which is not great. It's below their average from last year. But, of course, just one game. We're not taking any grand conclusions from the season off of one game. But most important thing, you get the victory. And here is where I will take grand conclusions. Ja Morant rules. Ja Morant loves playing on opening night. The 34 points he scored actually lowered his opening night scoring average over the past few seasons. He dropped 37 and 44 points in the last 2 Grizzlies season openers. So now just averaging 38.3 points over his last 3 season openers. Ja Morant, apex superstar game. The combination of the 3-point shooting, him making his shots, him getting to the rim, him making the spectacular highlight plays. Yeah, there were a few kind of hiccups. One, maybe ill-conceived behind-the-back pass to Brandon Clark, which didn't work out, which was in overtime, which led to the Knicks getting a big bucket. But a really, really good game from Ja Morant. Let's talk slightly more about Santi Aldama. Santi Aldama played 34 minutes in regulation. Santi Aldama was plus 18. Plus 18 in a game that the Grizzlies won by 3. The bench was a problem. Now, a lot of that, obviously, it's, there's no Dylan Brooks. There's no Zaire Williams. Konchar had to come off the bench and be promoted into the starting lineup. Santi Aldama, eventually, when Jaren Jackson Jr. comes back, is going to be on that bench as well. The bench at that point will probably become a strength. At least I assume Santi Aldama will come off the bench when he comes back, when Jaren comes back. Santi was so good. The combination of using his size, of rebounding, of offensive rebounding, of being a shot deterrent, one of the only shot deterrents in there for the Grizzlies, and then the spacing. Like, Brandon Clark only played 14 minutes in regulation because he could not provide the spacing. Because Brandon Clark was also being allowed to shoot those open corner 3-pointers, but he missed both of the ones he took. I will say, and maybe some people didn't agree with me, I thought Brandon Clark's shot form looked better than it has in previous seasons. Because, it was horrifying the last couple of years. I thought this jumper looked okay. Didn't seem like there was as much of a hitch in the shot. So maybe Brandon will make some of those 3-pointers. Brandon had a big overtime. Brandon also, obviously finished that alley-oop dunk on that highlight play in overtime. He also contributed on the offensive glass. But Aldama seemed to be the key for the non-Ja players. Like, he had to be in there for the Grizzlies to have success. So just a tremendous start to the Santi Aldama, whatever we're going to call it, era in Memphis. And then the Konchar, I already said it, the 9 attempted 3-pointers. Good job, John. Also, he contributed, I thought, really excellent defense. Now, Steven Adams, excellent game from Steven Adams. Steven Adams got off a little bit slow on the rebounding front because Konchar was just selfishly grabbing every rebound. But Adams finishes with 14 rebounds, 6 of them on the offensive glass, continuing his offensive glass dominance from last season, where he led the NBA in offensive rebounding and set a Grizzlies franchise record for the most offensive rebounds. Desmond Bane, subpar game as far as the shooting percentages. Some of them, despite me wanting him to get more shots up, some of them seemed particularly ill-advised or rushed. Maybe he was doing a Dylan Brooks tribute game. Also, by the way, Bane left this game at the end of overtime. It was with cramps. We thought maybe he'd hurt his leg or something. It was just cramps, tired from the season opening game, playing so many minutes. It was very fortuitous for the Grizzlies because when Desmond Bane subbed out, Tyus Jones came in and then knocked down that game winner. Very serendipitous coaching moment for Taylor Jenkins as his player gets injured, has to come out, and then the sub comes in, knocks down the game winner. Off the bench, Tyus Jones, makes that big shot. Tyus Jones plays a lot of minutes, ends up with 24 minutes. The rotation was basically as I expected. I almost got all the minutes. I got the minutes very, very close to what they actually turned out to be. There were, in fact, a lot of Tyus and Ja minutes together. It seemed to be a strength. Tyus Jones very aggressive with his shot, understanding that LaRavia and Roddy aren't really going to be able to get their own shots and aren't probably going to be that aggressive offensively, knowing that Clark is not a guy who can find his own shot, knowing Konchar is typically a low-usage guy. Jones definitely came out firing, had the green light, made some big shots in this one. David Roddy, a little bit of a forgettable debut for him. He missed all 6 of his field goal attempts. LaRavia, like I said, knocked down that one three-pointer he attempted. Tillman played some nice minutes, but in the second half, it was definitely the second unit that was getting a little bit roasted, and Tillman had some awkward moments trying to score over Hartenstein. But all in all, you think this is a good team win. You know, you understood that the bench is going to be an issue when you're missing that many top-line guys, when you're missing Jaren Jackson Jr. and Dillon Brooks, and also, by the way, Zaire Williams, who you think is going to be, maybe the key piece to that bench, to have rookies in their first game, Roddy and LaRavia sharing the court together, to roll out, summer league lineups, sort of, to have lineups with Tillman and Aldama, or Tillman, Aldama, and then also having like LaRavia and Roddy out there, to have those guys able to contribute on opening night in this way. Very, very encouraging, a very, very positive thing for the Grizzlies. And again, that's part of their team culture. That's like something they do organizationally before the game. Taylor Jenkins is like, yeah, I'm thinking about a 9-man or a 10-man, but I'm probably going to go a 10-man because I'm just going to get these guys experience. Like, the subtext to that is that's just what we do. We give our guys experience. We throw them into the fire in the regular season so they get those minutes. They get that opportunity to play when the lights are bright and the stats count. And so, because Roddy going 0 for 6, no big deal. He's going to be ready later in the season. He's going to be ready next season to contribute. And even though the shot didn't go in, he did contribute this game. Notably, he had a big drawn charge, and I got a fun stat about charges that I will give you right after this short break. Tune in Friday, October 21st to watch your Grizzlies battle the Houston Rockets on Bally Sports Southeast and Bally Sports Plus at 7 p.m., presented by FanDuel. Fans will want to tune in early at 6:30 p.m. for Grizzlies Live, presented by Ford and your Mid-South Ford dealers, featuring Pete Pranica, Brevin Knight, and Rob Fisher. Check local listings and Grizzlies.com for the channel guide. And of course, if you're in Nashville, come to Noble's Beer Hall for our Grizzlies watch party on Friday, October 21st for the Rockets game. All right, so David Roddy drew a huge charge in his first career NBA game. The Grizzlies as a team drew 3 charges on opening night. Last season, the Grizzlies did not draw their third charge as a team until December 8th in game 25. It took them 25 games last year to draw 3 charges. They drew 3 in this one. Now, if you've listened to Grits and Grinds for a year or more, I hate charges. I know they're good. I know it's beneficial for your team to draw charges. I just prefer, actually playing defense. And of course, this game at the end of regulation, one of the biggest plays of the game was a charge. I don't know what the last 2-minute report's going to say when it comes out this afternoon. Honestly, I didn't watch the replay that many times because I knew the Grizzlies didn't have a challenge, and why get upset watching the play over and over and over? But Jalen Brunson drew a charge on Ja Morant. It's a dangerous play, but it's a play Jalen Brunson has to make. It's a play that the rules have forced Jalen Brunson to make. He's not going to block Ja Morant's shot. The rules say, hey, if you stand there and undercut this airborne guy, as long as you're there before he starts that upward motion, you're good. So a big defensive play, although I hate calling it a defensive play from Jalen Brunson at the end of the game, drawing a charge. But the Grizzlies themselves drew 3 charges in one game. And your charge breakdown, that is something you're only going to get on Grits and Grinds. A couple of other things before we get out of here. Before the game, Steven Adams was asked about Mitchell Robinson being, one of the best offensive rebounds, and Steven Adams said maybe he is. But then he said, offensive rebounds mean your team's missing shots, so he'd be happy to not be a great offensive rebound. We saw that play out exactly in the second half of this one. Steven Adams had a great second half. He got all 6 of his offensive rebounds in the second half. But of course, that's because the Grizzlies stopped making their shots. The Grizzlies had a very brutal second half shooting the basketball, only made 34.7% of their shots in the second half. And then in overtime, they were just 3 out of 8. So I think Steven would have been happy with not racking up all those rebounds, not getting all those offensive rebounds, if the Grizzlies just made for more field goal attempts. And we saw it. When the three-pointers stopped going in, the half-court offense was pretty bad for the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies just scored 0.82 points per possession in the half-court last night against the Knicks, which is not what you're hoping for. You'd hope to score a little bit more in the half-court if you're going to beat actually good teams. Like, we don't know if the Knicks are going to be good. I mean, their over-under was to be right around a 500 team. So this is a game you're expected to win. You hope you win, even with the players missing. It looked like you were going to win by a lot, but then, of course, you let the game get away as the offense starts to abandon you a little bit. Also, I don't know if you noticed this. This is something we've highlighted before. Ja Morant time wastes a lot, and I usually think it's good, but I don't know if this took the Grizzlies out of their rhythm. It's a way that he burns the game clock when the Grizzlies are winning. He's done this for years, his entire career. After a made basket, the shot clock doesn't start until the offense inbounds the ball and picks it up. So after a made basket, he will tell whoever's throwing it in to roll the basketball. Sometimes you see this at the end of games where people are trying to preserve time. Ja Morant does it to waste time because the game clock is running, but the shot clock has not running. There's the added benefit of most of the time he can get to half court before the defense makes him picks the ball up, and thus you have a full 24 seconds to run your half court offense. So maybe it is beneficial, but the Grizzlies did a lot of this. However, when you lose, when you blow a 19-point lead, part of me is like, I don't know, did we lose our rhythm? Also, it was unlucky. I know it's not Santi's fault, but after Santi dunked on Julius Randle, awesome play, he gets the taunting technical. That kind of started the run for the Knicks. I don't think those things are correlated, but I definitely noted like, oh man, I don't like that taunting call. I don't think Santi really did much of anything that deserved a tech, but now the lead is slipping away, and was that the thing that flipped the switch, that changed the momentum if you're one of those people who believes in momentum? And finally, I guess I'll highlight maybe what was the most unique or fun play. Yes, the best play was the chase down block and the alley-oop to Brandon Clark. But the most fortuitous play, but also showed a good bit of that old classic grit and grind, was a scramble play near the end of regulation where the Grizzlies, in my mind, got very, very lucky, but you could argue you make your own luck. Ja Morant lost the ball, tie basketball game, tied at 100. Ja Morant lost the ball. Looks like the Knicks get a steal. The Knicks fail to pick the ball up for whatever reason. It ends up in Konchar's hands. He throws it to Bane. Bane launches a desperation three that bricks at the shot clock buzzer. But in this scramble, Santi Aldama draws a loose ball foul, rebounding. He goes flying out of bounds, gets the foul called on Julius Randle. The Grizzlies are in the bonus, so that's a great job generating points out of nothing with the free throws. Santi makes the first free throw, misses the second free throw. Steven Adams, who might be the greatest offensive rebounder on free throws in NBA history, he gets the offensive rebound, taps it out. Ja Morant gets a traditional three-point play. Thus, the Grizzlies have a 4-point play in regulation. Yes, it got erased. It got sent to overtime with Cam Reddish making that near buzzer beater at the end of regulation. But I thought that play was unique and fun. Anyways, a great first win. The bullet points. 17 made three-pointers on 50 attempts. Huge, non-typical three-point shooting numbers. We obviously hope they keep that up. The Grizzlies got 20 offensive rebounds, which is a strength from last year. However, they only won the second chance scoring battle by 1 point, as the Knicks had 19 offensive rebounds, and the Knicks punished the Grizzlies inside with the 68 points in the paint. The Grizzlies only got 6 steals, which is would have been a bottom 10 performance from last year for total steals. The Grizzlies drew 3 charges, also very out of character. And, of course, the most important ones, Ja Morant rules, Santi Aldama rules, John Konchar rules, and Zaire Williams, Dylan Brooks, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. are on their way back. Anyways, thanks you guys for listening to this episode. Please, if you don't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel to watch video versions of this show. Go to a watch party on Friday night if you are able. Talk to you soon. Go Grizz.